Okay, good day everyone. And my name is Kenneth Roque. My edX username is Kenneth underscore Roque. And my GitHub username is Kenneth Roque. And this presentation is being recorded on day July 4, 2026. And the incident date is February 2025. And CVE is none. No public software vulnerability disclosed. So for my project in Harvard University, CS50 Introduction to Cybersecurity is I chose to analyze the foreign cyber intrusion attempts against Philippine government system. So I chose this topic because it highlights how if cybersecurity has become an essential part of national security. These incidents demonstrates how governments defend critical information from sophisticated cyber threats and how the cybersecurity concepts we learned in CS50 can be applied to a real-world event. So let's begin by looking at what happened. So incident overview in February 2025, the Philippine government announced that foreign threat actors attempted to gain unauthorized access to intelligence-related government systems. So according to official statements, these attempts were detected and blocked before there was any confirmed compromise of sensitive information. So one important thing to remember is that many technical details of the attack were not publicly disclosed. This is common because investigations are often ongoing and government avoid revealing information that could expose their security measures. So instead of focusing on speculation, this presentation focuses on the confirmed facts and the cybersecurity principles that help prevent a successful attack. So let's move on the what is an advanced persistent threat or APT. So unlike ordinary cyber criminals who often seek quick financial gain, APT groups usually have long-term objectives such as intelligence gathering or that. So they are highly organized, patient, and often associated with nation-state operations. Rather than attacking immediately, they spend time researching their target, identifying weaknesses, and attempting to remain undetected for as long as possible. Because of their persistence and sophistications, APTs represent one of the most challenging threats faced by governments today. So let's move on the confirmed facts versus assumptions. So one important lesson from cybersecurity is to separate confirmed facts from assumptions. So in this incident, we know that intrusion attempts were detected. They targeted intelligence-related government systems, and officials reported that there was no confirmed data breach. However, the exact attack techniques, malware, or vulnerabilities were never publicly disclosed. So instead of making assumptions, I chose to focus on established cybersecurity concepts that apply regardless of the specific attack method. So this approach reflects the importance of evidence-based analysis in cybersecurity. So let's move on the typical APT lifecycle or the general model. And although every attack is different, advanced persistent threats generally follow a similar life cycle. So they begin with reconnaissance, where attackers gather information about the target. Next comes initial access, followed by privilege escalation if they successfully enter the network. So attackers then attempt lateral movement to reach valuable systems before finally collecting and exfiltrating sensitive data. So based on public reports, it appears that Philippine authorities detected the intrusion attempts during the early stages, so preventing the attackers from progressing further. So this demonstrates the importance of early detection in cybersecurity. So CSPT concepts map to the incident. So this incident demonstrates several cybersecurity concepts. So authentication verifies a user's identity, while multi-factor authentication makes stolen credentials much less useful. So authorization and the principle of least privilege ensure that users can only access the resources necessary for their roles, limiting the impact if an account is compromised. Logging records important system activity, allowing investigators to analyze what happened during an incident. Intrusion detection systems monitor networks for suspicious behavior and alert security teams when an unusual activity is detected. So together, these technologies represent concept of defense in depth, where multiple layers of security work together to reduce the likelihood of a successful attack. And why the attack likely failed? So although officials did not publicly identify every defensive technology that was used, several common cybersecurity practices likely contributed to the successful defense. So firewalls help filter unauthorized traffic before it reaches critical systems. Network segmentation limits how far attackers can move within an organization. Endpoint protection detects malicious software on individual devices. Continuous monitoring enables security team to respond quickly to suspicious activity, while regular patch management reduces known vulnerabilities. Rather than relying on a single security control, organizations combine multiple layers of defense, making it much more difficult for attackers to succeed. So let's move on the incident response workflow, where the once suspicion activity is detected, organizations follow an incident response process. This typically begins with detection, followed by analysis to determine what happened. Security teams then contain the threat, investigate the scope of the incident, recover affected systems, and continue monitoring for any additional activity. According to official reports, the Philippine government response closely followed this process through early detection, investigation, continuous monitoring, and public communication. Structured incident response is essential for minimizing damage and improving future security. And let's move on to the recommendations. Based on this incident, several recommendations stands out. Organizations should require multi-factor authentication, especially for privileged accounts. Regular patch management be prioritized to reduce vulnerabilities. Continuous monitoring and threat hunting help detect attacks before they become serious incidents. Cybersecurity awareness training helps employees recognize phishing and other social engineering attacks. Finally, organizations should regularly perform penetration testing and red team exercises to identify weaknesses before attackers do. These practices strengthen an organization's overall security posture and improves resilience against future threats. And let's move on to the conclusions and the key lessons. In conclusion, this incident demonstrates that successful cybersecurity is often invisible. Because the intrusion attempts were detected early, there was no confirmed compromise of sensitive government information. While the public may only hear that an attack occurred, that real success lies in preventing attackers from achieving their objective. So this case also reinforced many of the concepts introduced throughout CS50, including authentication, authorization, logging, intrusion detection, defense in depth, and incident response. So beyond the technical lessons, this incident reflects a broader reality. Today, nations increasingly compete not only through traditional military capabilities but also through cyberspace. Attacks on critical infrastructure and attempts to access sensitive government information have become important national security concerns. While not every cyber incident should be considered cyber warfare, events like this demonstrated why governments must continuously strengthen their cyber defenses and remain prepared for evolving threats. As I complete CS50 Introduction to Cybersecurity, this project has strengthened my understanding of how cybersecurity principles are applied in the real world. It has also inspired me to continue learning and pursuing a career in cybersecurity, where I hope to contribute to protecting the systems and information that organizations and society rely on. So thank you for watching my presentation.